Okay, and welcome to installment 2 from our nonlinear editing for week 1. And here, once again, we're trying to gear up and make this process work. And so one of the first things that we have to make sure of is that you're able to edit video the same way you were before, meaning that now you have to access this equipment at home. You should be able to do this because the equipment itself doesn't really exist. It's programs that you download. And so the goal here is to get whatever system that you're using able to do your editing. And sometimes that's going to be easier to do than others. Some of your systems may run slower this way, but it's still possible to do. And so this next assignment that you'll be given is not necessarily going to be easy, but it's going to be simple. And so what I want you to do is to edit a simple scene. I have provided you links to download a series of clips, and I want you to edit them together. And today I'm going to show you how to do that, how you would go about that process. And this will be review. We've done it before, but I want to make sure that you have a reference to follow in case you have forgotten some of this stuff. Okay, basic editing refresher. So back to basics once again. Most of you know. I just want you to have basic reference. I just said all that stuff. Now, I want you to be able to do this from where you are, obviously. All future exercises will involve this process, meaning that this is not a waste of time. Now, if you don't want to edit the video that I sent you, you can edit something else. You can do that too. But I just want to make sure that you edit something. And so please use this as an opportunity to stretch your skills and your abilities. And again, we're going to stick with the basics. Okay, the basics of Premiere. Basically, what I want you to be able to do this week is to make a new project, understand the content windows, basic timeline functions, graphics and titles, at least to some degree, and exporting a finished product. If you can do that, we're in business. Okay, so here you see the Adobe Premiere screen. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that you can see this. You can see the cursor. So I am going to deprive you of my face. I'm just going to go ahead and say goodbye. There we go. All right, so now you're basically just seeing the screen, and so that way you can concentrate on that, and I will direct your attention. Now, unfortunately, we no longer have that beautiful 4-screen setup that we had done, and so this is going to be your editing system. And let's see if they've given it a name here under workspaces. I think it's just called editing or whatever system that they give you, and then you can customize it as you want. So I recommend that you do the following. I'm going to show you where to find these things. Now, first of all, I put these up here, effects. Effects would be one of them. So that way, if you're looking for effects, you can organize them that way. This doesn't have to be very large. You can divide the windows into as small increments as you want. Your effects control should be bigger, and we'll see why that is in a minute. You would definitely want to have your scopes, your program window, and of course your project window and your timeline. And over here you've got your audio controls. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a new project. So if I make a new project, I get this dialog box here. Hopefully you can all see that. And I'm going to call this Continuity 1. And I'm going to find where that footage is. So in this particular case, there is a folder called Continuity 1, which contains all of that stuff. So make sure everything is stored in that same folder. You don't actually have to call it Continuity 1, but you should call it something that you can remember. And then I'm just going to say OK. And immediately, nothing changes, but I get a nice empty project. You see there's nothing in the project. Timeline's empty. So then I'm just going to go ahead and import. And then I find the Continuity 1 folder, wherever that happens to be. And I'm going to go ahead and import all of the video files. Now you just click on the first one, then click on the last one in line, and then hold the Shift key and click on the last one. If you get some of these extraneous files, don't import those. But import all the videos. Now, if you hit Control, you can select the individual ones. So basically, all of the video files, the ones that are AVIs, and actually, I didn't give you that one. That's not the same format, so we'll get rid of that. And then just hit Open, and you'll see the computer loads them all up. They're very small files. These are done in AVI format, but they're done as NTSC because they're designed to be very simple. So I'm going to click on the first one and shift click on the last one, and then I'm just going to drag them over from there into the timeline window. And now you'll see there's the timeline, and if I were to play some of this, so I can do that just by hitting play here. Now you can see audio playback here. You can see your video playback. You can see what the scope is doing. Everything that you need. Now, if I were to stop this and I were to click on this, you'll also see all of the possible effects controls that you have. Right now, I'll sort of close those so we don't have to look at all of them at once. But you'll see how they are there for this particular clip. And so if you click on another clip, you'll have a different set of options. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to basically put together the scene. Now, the scene plays out. Let's see if I can find one of the wide shot versions of it. The footage is named CU as close up, and so we have the wide shots here at the end. So let's say we look at that one. And so the wide shots, I believe, are only looking at this side of the screen.
But that's just not possible. Dr. Bolton, your project here is complete. Dr. Grimes signed off on it, and now he's scheduled to catch a plane to Washington, D.C. tonight. I strongly suggest that you leave the plane.
He's getting on a plane. So you're saying he's all right?
As far as anyone here knows, he's doing just fine.
As far as... So what happened?
Nothing happened this morning. Nothing happened. Look, Dr. Grimes is fine. He's on his way to Washington, and that's the end.
Well, what about the final report in the summer? When I have to buy a paper?
Doctor, there's nothing left to be done. Look, Baxter Labs appreciates your work.
But what about Dr. Grimes? Where's he going? How can I contact him?
Sir, that's classified. If he needs to contact you, you can be sure that he will.
What? What if? Did you see him leave this morning? Did anybody? Nobody really knows where he is, do they?
Dr. Grimes has been reassigned. Anyone who needs to know more than that already does.
Yeah. He knows the thing, doesn't he?
Nobody here wants to know anything about that. The smart people want to stay out here, where it's safe. Now, that's the friendly warning you're going to get them. It's also the last. Where are we clear?
Okay, so that's the scene. That's as complicated as it gets. It's basically just a short dialogue between those two characters. And you don't necessarily even have to include all the dialogue. You can put it together any way you want. You can put it together in different order if you want. You're the editor. You get to make these decisions. Okay, so let's say that we want to start with one of these shots. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight all of this, and I'm just going to move them over to the right. Now, there's many ways that you can choose to do this, but I want to create a nice empty space here on the timeline. Then I'm going to put my first shot. And so let's say, well, that's a nice expression here, but let's say that I want my first shot to be of this guy. You can scoot in on these things by moving this around. So let's see what this works.
That's just not possible.
So let's say we're talking about that little piece right there. So you can see I can scoot this in so I can even see the audio where that's listed, and you can even expand on that if you want to. Oh, wrong one, I think. So if I pull that down a little bit, you get a better look at it.
But that's just not possible.
Okay, so let's say that's what I want to start with. And so I can go ahead and put that there. Now, if I were to go over here to my tools window, or if you don't find your tools, hit the C button on your computer, and that gives you the razor blade. And then just click on that, and then you cut that section. And then let's say we take a little bit more, and we cut that, and then we click on the arrow or hit the V, and that gives you back your cursor. So here, to make it a little easier, I'm just going to right-hand click on that, and I'm going to cut it. So that has been removed from that section of the timeline. So then if I widen it out and go back to my little blank space, I'm just going to go there and hit Control V, and there's my first shot. Now it's a very small shot, so we may want to magnify that so we can see it. I'm going to put that right at the beginning. Okay, so we just put that there at the beginning, and so if we play that, that's literally the first part of our video. So I tend to like to begin every project with a fade in. So I'm going to go to video transitions, and I'm just going to choose cross dissolve under dissolves, and I'm just going to drop that in.
But that's just not possible.
Okay, so let's say we have that. We can even stretch it out just a little bit more. So we include a little bit more of that shake of the head. Now let's find a counter response. And so here we have a whole bunch of possibilities. So let's say we just go right for another close-up.
But that's just not possible.
Dr. Bolton.
Let's say we're going to go right with that shot there. And you get to choose exactly what you want to include. So here, we'll just go ahead and chop it there. Get rid of this part here because we know we're not going to use that.
Dr. Bolton, your project here is complete. Dr. Grimes signed off on it, and now he's scheduled to get the plan to Washington tonight. I strongly suggest that you leave as well.
So let's say we just want to stop it there. We want that much of the line because we'll go back to Fulton for that. And let's say we take this, cut it again, scoot over to this, and Control V. So it's right there. And then if we magnify there, we can move these together, and let's see what we get.
But that's just not possible.
Dr. Bolton, your project here is complete. Dr. Grimes signed off on it, and now he's scheduled to get the plan to Washington tonight. I strongly suggest that you leave as well.
Okay, so there, let's say we want to go to the reaction shot. So if I widen this out a little bit, and I can then find, let's see, basically they're all going to be the same for the reaction shots. But let's say I just take it from where we left off here. Maybe that's the easiest way to approach it.
Dr. Bolton, your project here is complete. Now he's scheduled to catch a plane for Washington tonight.
Okay, so let's say that's where we want to pick that up from. So I'm just going to cut this, and for ease of editing, I'm just going to get rid of that part because we're probably not going to use it.
I strongly suggest that you leave as well.
He's getting on a plane. Are you saying he's all right?
As far as anyone here knows, he's doing just fine.
That's fine. So what happened?
Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Grimes is fine. He's on his way to Washington, and that's the end of it.
But what about the final report and the study? I still got the final
Doctor, there's nothing left done.
Okay, so let's say we take all of that as a possible. So I slice that piece, go back to my arrow tool, right hand click and cut, and let's say I go all the way over here, and I go Control V, and so here I want to start putting those two together. So if I play some of this,
I strongly suggest that you leave as well. I strongly suggest that you leave
So automatically we've got a little bit of repair work to do. So I'm just going to scoot that in point over a little bit. Now let's see if that fits better.
I strongly suggest that you do as well.
He's getting on a front. Are you saying he's all right?
As far as anyone here knows, he's doing just fine.
As far as
Now notice we don't have to necessarily go back to the shot there, so we're going to leave that one alone.
Anyone here knows he's doing just fine.
as far as what happened?
Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Grimes is fine. He's on his way to Washington, and that's the end of it.
But what about the following part?
So notice how we stay with his expression now. That's not necessarily the wrong way to do it. But we could do it another way as well. Let's say we go out here and we find one of those wide shots.
Grimes is fine. He's scheduled to catch a plane to Washington, and that's the end.
But what about
So let's say I take some of this instead.
Dr. Grimes signed off on it. Dr. Bolton, your project here is complete. Dr. Grimes signed off on it, and now he's scheduled to catch a plane for Washington, D.C. tonight. I strongly suggest that you do as well.
he's getting on a plane? Are you saying he's all right?
As far as
So let's say we take it from there, we cut a piece there,
He's getting on a plane? Are you saying he's all right?
As far as anyone here knows, he's doing just fine.
So what happened?
Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Grimes is fine. He's scheduled to catch a plane to Washington, and that's the end of it.
But what about the final report? Don't I have to tell papers?
Doctor, there's nothing left.
Okay, so let's say we take that piece and see if we can do anything with it. So I'm just going to grab the arrow here, and once again I'm just going to right-hand click. Oops, right-hand click. All right, well, maybe we got to magnify in it a little bit. Right-hand click and cut. And let's say I go all the way back here to our working here, and we'll Control V. And so basically what I want to do is I want to expand this a little bit.
He's getting on a plane. Are you saying he's all right?
As far as anyone here knows, he's doing just fine.
As far as what happened this time?
So let's say at that point we want to go to the wide shot. So I'm going to cut that. You can always change your mind. And let's say I want to put this over there and go over here.
As far as anyone here knows, he's doing just fine.
As far as what happened this time? He's getting on a plane? Are you saying he's all right?
As far as anyone here knows, he's doing just fine.
So what happened?
So I will cut that piece there, and let's say we put this out and see if we can put those together.
As far as what happened this time? So what happened?
Oh, that's still not right there yet. So let's go right in on there, and we'll just move it in right there. So that's fine.
What happened?
Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Grimes is fine. He's scheduled to catch a plane to Washington.
Okay, so this is where it gets critical. What we want to do is we want to include the reaction shot alone. So here, it doesn't matter what he's saying. We just want, because he's not saying anything, we just want that expression. So what I want to do is I want to right-click on this, and I want to unlink the audio and the video. So now I'm just going to select the audio and delete it. And the video, I'm going to put up one track, and I'm going to move it over. And let's say I put some of that over here on top. So when the video sees this, remember it sees from above, it will look down on him.
What happened this time?
Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Grimes is fine. He's scheduled to catch a plane to Washington and...
So we can even make it a little shorter.
He's going just fine.
As far as anybody knows. So what happened this time?
Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
And let's say I can even move that. And I can move it asynchronous. So I can move it a little bit further away. So let's say I want to keep that line, nothing happened.
He's scheduled to... Grimes is fine.
So I want to keep that entire line.
Nothing happened. Grimes is fine. He's scheduled to catch a plane to Washington and that's the end of it.
But what about the final report?
So I would have to stop that before he says something.
Washington and that's the end of it.
And so at this point I can move that out point back.
But what about the final report? The summary. Don't I have to have
Doctor, there's nothing left to do.
Okay, so let's say we go on like that. And the only other thing that I want to add is some sort of a graphic title. So let's say we've got the whole timeline here, and this is what we're building, this section of the timeline. And I want to build a title graphic. So if I go to the File menu, File New, Legacy Title. And we're going to call this Opening. So there's our opening, and you'll see it appears down here in the project window. Let's say we just want to make nothing but a little box there, and we say confrontation outside. And let's say we just center that if you want to. Just hit the center button there, and we can even move that around a bit. So there it is. That will be fine, and that's the title. So if I grab this entire timeline here and just move it over just a little bit, and I put my little opening title right there in the beginning, and I just make that a little shorter, and I'm going to crossfade it in and crossfade it out, and then let's say I move everything right up against it, and let's see what that would do. So if I hit play here,
But that's just not possible.
okay, so we're going to assume that you have finished this, where you can have the end as another title if you want to, and then we're just going to export it. So go to File, Export, Media, Export Media. When you do that, you should get this dialog box here, and here all we're going to do is we're going to give it an output name. See, output name. From there, make sure you know where it goes. So for example, if you're in continuity 1, so all you're going to do is make sure it goes. So keep it in the continuity file and give it a name. We'll call this continuity test. And hit save. And you should also notice that the format must be H.264. Don't use anything else. H.264. You can match the source for bit rate. It should be an MP4 file. So go with the settings here. Whatever the settings are, it should match the source. And then hit Q, and then you should see it do something like this. Now I skipped a rather important step. Before you've done this, you got to get rid of everything after the end of the timeline. Otherwise, it'll basically render all that footage as well. So before we do this, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to grab all this stuff. You can do this two different ways. You can copy this and put it to a new timeline. I'm just going to get rid of all that because we don't need it anymore. So that becomes your timeline from end to end. You go into the File, Export, Media, and then you get this dialog box. Again, that's a funny expression there. Make sure it's on H.264, match source. I'm just going to go here, and so let's say we'll call this continuity underscore test underscore incomplete. And so then, when you're satisfied with these settings, hit Q, and you should get, it takes a second to come up sometimes, you can get this, and basically you just hit this and let her rip. And there it's going through the scene. And when you see the little check mark there, that means it's done. So then you can find it somewhere on the system. And if you look, continuity test incomplete. If I double click on that.
But that's just not possible.
Dr. Bolton, your project here is complete. Dr. Grimes signed off on it, and now he's scheduled to get the plane to Washington, D.C. tonight. I strongly suggest that you leave as well.
He's getting on a plane. Are you saying he's all right?
As far as anyone here knows, he's doing just fine.
That's fine. What happened this morning?
Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Grimes is fine. He's scheduled to catch a plane to Washington, and that's the end of it.
But what about the final report, the summary? Don't I have to have papers?
Doctor.
So there it is. So basically what you're going to do is take that file and send it to me, and that will be due next Tuesday. And that's basically all. If you have any questions, please use the discussion threads that I provide, and you could, if you need help and you're on campus, just let me know. We'll see what we can do. And there it is. Thank you very much.